Now, I know some of you are saying it's flock of seagulls. It's not really. It's a flock of seagulls. So that's why they fall under our A. So a little space age love song out there for you. We're hanging out with Dan Spencer, Filthy Pirate Coffee, filthypirate.coffee. Someone messaged me during the break. What's hours of operation?
We are currently open Tuesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay. Like I said, and he's got a lot of cool swag now too.
Yeah, we do. A lot of cool merch.
You were very last time I was in there for Christmas because I was getting some stuff to send to my D&D crew back in New York, and you said, "Hey, let me give you a hat," and I said, "There's no hat that fits my head." Literally, you'd give me a hat and it would just sit on top of my head like you remember the Wayans brothers in Living Color? They had Twan and they had that little hat on his head. That's me. So I literally, when I go online, I have to find the XL hats. So he was like, why do you wear only that NAU hat and those two American flag ones? Because they fit my giant brain, or at least skull, not brain. I don't want to say it's that big. I don't make that in.
Do you wear beanies? The skull caps?
Sure.
I'll get you one of those. Okay. That'll stretch. You will get that thing to fit.
Because then there's those ones that someone go, oh, it says one size fits all, right? Those ones.
Yeah.
And then literally it just cuts off all brain. I could literally collapse in 3 minutes wearing one of those things. So yes, I will definitely love to have a beanie from the Pirate.
Gotcha.
So, how long were you on Tucson Police Force?
20 and a half years.
20 and a half years?
Yeah.
20? You were. You hit your 20 and you were out.
Yes, I did. It wasn't the original plan. The original plan was to do 25 and kind of grow the business, just nice and, smooth on the side. And we weren't planning on doing a store for a couple years. And then COVID hits. And then Minneapolis hits. And, just one thing after another. And by August, we decided that's it. We're done. Quite frankly, it was on the heels of the chief's press conference with the mayor at the time, with the 3 officers involved in the in custody death.
Right.
That was the
straw that broke the.
Yeah, my wife said, when my wife says that's it, you're done, I kind of took cue as to, because she's always been the level-headed one. I was like, I want to do this and I want to retire at 20 and get a business, and and she's like, slow down, Turbo. But by June, when that press conference came out, I realized this is not the place for me. It's not where I want to work anymore. It's not the business. I love police work. I love serving others. Obviously, I've been in a uniform for 24 years. That wasn't the problem. The problem was when you lack support and you lack that protection from your bosses, as long as you were doing things with a good heart and trying to do things properly. If you're lacking that, then why do the business? Why risk going to jail, ruining your family for that type of stuff? So that was kind of my mindset as we rolled into the end of summer and decided to retire.
Talking to a lot of your brothers and sisters at TPD who are still on the force, the common response I get, like, how's it going out there? Right? It's the most dangerous time I've ever had being in the streets of Tucson because of lack of support from the chief, but also because there's not that many officers. You don't know if backup's coming, when backup's coming, and they talk about how it changes the dynamics of a confrontation with somebody.
It does. It does dramatically. And I think, unfortunately, in my view, my personal view, I think it's going to get worse in the next few years. I think people that have the ability to leave are going to leave law enforcement altogether. I think that's a nationwide trend.
Sure.
It's just not worth what you're getting paid if you can no longer explain yourself and you're going to get run over by politicians and administrators. You can defend yourself in court. We teach the officers, we've done that for many, many years, to defend yourself and your actions in court against a jury. And the common person knows and understands that. And we have been successful, as long as you were doing the right things, to be able to go through that process. But now, when you're being prosecuted just because it doesn't look good,
especially after they were exonerated the first time.
Right. And
those 3 officers were sent back to their spots. Weren't they? They weren't sent back. They didn't give them office jobs or suspend them the first time. The 3 guys with the naked coked up guy?
Well, so, yeah, nothing happened, I think. They were put on, I don't really know. They went through the normal procedures, and then all of a sudden now they all, resigned in lieu of termination and so on and so forth. And I don't know, speaking out on that case is really tough for me. I just felt like there was a lack of support, in my view, for those guys. And it was, something that I don't know would have happened a year prior. would have been the same circumstance.
So from when you first started to where you're at now, talk about the difference in support to lack of support now under this current chief.
Huge difference. When I started early on, which was pre 9/11, it was, the common thing you would hear is, how would your grandmother feel if she saw or heard what you did on this specific incident as a police officer? Would you have, given your family the respect, And so that was kind of the basis.
Sure.
Be honest. Everyone screws up. Everyone makes a mistake. You're human. It's going to happen. Just be honest. That was the main key, and I don't think that was ever an issue as a profession. Certain people, it certainly was occasionally here and there. But so then towards the end, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter.
What doesn't matter?
It didn't matter if you were coming from a good place of heart, you were trying to do the right things. If it doesn't look good on video, if it doesn't sit right with somebody that hasn't been out there doing it in 20 years, if it doesn't sit right with them, you're done. And that part really didn't sit well with me. It's just that this is a human being with a family, and that you just threw them away like trash. When the badge was no longer respected, in my view, to a degree of, these are your employees. These are the people that work for your city. These are the people that go out there day and night and do exactly what you ask them to do to the best of their abilities. And you trash them so quickly. I just had a problem with that, and I decided it wasn't for me.
How many chiefs did you work for in your career?
Let's see, Miranda, Miller, Taz, and then Magnus.
Who was the best of those four?
I would say Miranda did a lot for the agency. I didn't agree with everything about him. He wasn't very pro-military in some aspects, or openly as a police agency.
Right.
But he did a lot for the growth of us. I would say Miranda was one of the ones that I saw the most growth in the good direction. And as long as you did your job, he left you alone.
We used to make fun of him because he always did those great task force. He was a task force guy. Everything
they loved that was back in the days, like everything. Oh, we got a crime, make a task force,
And then that task force would, stop after about 4 weeks. But we had the press conference with the task force. Who's the worst?
Oh, Magnus by far.
Why?
The morale is just during a time where you need to step up and show leadership. It's just management. It's just management at this point. It's not leadership. There's inspiration to do the job has just depleted to an all-time low. And so, I don't care what you do for the agency, if you get new cars or whatever, if that area is when people's willingness to do the job correctly and go out there and put it all online. And there still are people out there doing it.
Oh, they're moving towards sainthood for me.
If the people that are out there doing it, I don't understand sometimes, and they say, I'll keep doing this job, nothing can stop you. But, it takes that one mistake for that everything to change. And so, for what I've seen in my 20-year span of the police agency, nothing like the last 2 years.
Now, it seems like Magnus has the least amount of connection with the regular officer. Like, that's what I've heard from a lot of people, whether they worked under Taz, Miller, or Miranda. He seems to have the least amount of, interest in connecting with the regular officers. What was your experience that you saw that?
I would say that's true. I think Miranda had a lot on his plate at the time, and so it might have been challenging for him. I think Taz was probably the most connected. He was a cop's cop, and
True.
He connected with you on a personal level out in the field. He would listen to you. And that doesn't mean he would implement whatever your ideas or thoughts were.
Right.
But I think Taz was the most connected, and I would say Magnus is probably the least connected. I think there's, this attempt to, but I think once the damage is done, it really was tough. He came in on a bad note when, we were fighting for raises, and the first thing, he did at that time was ask for, an exponential raise in the chief's salary. And so that didn't sit well with line personnel from the very get-go. So I think his uphill battle started that day, and it just became more and more challenging. And just the quickness to eviscerate anybody that it just doesn't sit well with him. And I saw multiple incidents that needed review for sure, and maybe even placed on administrative leave, because that's how we do things in that business.
Right.
But, for 15 months, 18 months or whatever it was, a couple people were sitting at home on administrative leave.
Right.
That wrecks people. And I don't know. There was a better way to handle that, I think, during that time.
Well, I appreciate your honest input on this, because I feel it's one of the most important issues facing this region is the lack of support and the lack of staffing at Tucson Police Department for homeowners, business owners, and everyone else in between. And it's getting scary and sad.
It is. I have a lot of good friends that are still out there doing it. God bless them. I wish them the best. And my hat's off to them for waking up today and going out there and fighting the good fight, and no matter what's in front of them. And I just wonder how long that's going to take before it wears thin on them. And we're getting there. And staffing, all of that stuff is a problem.
I keep seeing a Facebook post with some good longtime officer who's leaving. Like, it seems like once a week now.
Yeah. I don't know what the numbers. I've been disconnected for a couple months, but they come into my shop. I see them all the time. They come in and say, "I just retired," or "I'm retiring next month."
They can run a Filthy Pirate franchise for you one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Dan. Thanks for all that you do.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for the amazing coffee, man. We're spoiled little fellas over here.
Thank you.
All right. Filthy Pirate Coffee, right across the street from Northwest Hospital on La Cholla and Orange Grove. Remember, tomorrow we got a Double Food Friday, including Taylor and the crew from Fire Truck Brewery celebrating their 7th anniversary. Zach's coming up next.